7 Best way to survive inflation and maintain your financial security. Inflation is a major concern for many individuals around the world. The effects of inflation can be significant, resulting in diminished purchasing power and making the economy slower and less innovative. You see, a few simple measures can help protect you from the negative effects of high inflation. Keeping an emergency fund is a good place to start. You should set aside at least 6 months' worth of expenses. Savings accounts will not keep up with inflation, so it is best to find alternative investments. These can include real estate, commodities, and other hard assets. One of the most effective ways to prepare for high inflation is to eliminate debt. By eliminating debt, you will be able to save more money, thus giving you more financial freedom. A good investment strategy should also include a hedging strategy. This is particularly important in a higher inflation environment. Dear viewers, recently we have been asked with the following queries regarding inflation. What should I do with my money to protect against inflation? Where is your money safest during inflation? What assets are best during inflation? What is the best way to survive inflation? Dear viewers, watch the video till the end, in order to reap the benefits for your fine living. Hello dear viewers. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome to TKI, theknowledgeinsights.com. Being part of your fine lifestyle. Before we start, click the subscribe button below, also the bell icon, as we have more insights to share with you for your fine living. Let's get started. Number 1. Diversify your assets. There are a number of assets that perform well in an inflationary environment. The key is to find the right balance. When you are investing for the long term, this is critical. High-growth firms, for example, beat inflation almost 4 times out of 5. In addition, commodities have historically done well in inflationary environments. Inflation can affect foreign exchange rates. It can also depreciate interest rate payments. This makes long-term fixed-rate debt more vulnerable. However, high-yield debt tends to gain value when inflation rises. Real estate has traditionally been a safe haven. However, the financial crisis of 2007 to 2008 made real estate vulnerable to inflation. Investment real estate should be approached cautiously in 2023. Equity rights have performed well, with an average real return of 4.7%. During inflationary periods, however, they outperformed inflation 67% of the time. Energy stocks, meanwhile, outperformed inflation 71% of the time. These types of companies typically rely on high energy prices to generate revenues. Diversifying your holdings can also help you mitigate the effects of inflation. Whether you are investing for the long term or for the short, diversifying your holdings can help you get the best returns possible. Number 2. Investing in stocks that rise during inflation. Inflation is a major concern on Wall Street. The Fed is raising interest rates and inflation is causing a lot of pain in bonds and other investments. If you haven't padded your portfolio with inflation-protected securities, you should start. Investing in shares that gain during high inflation periods has been shown to be a successful strategy. There are several asset classes that have performed well during this time period, including oil, gold, and emerging market stocks. Energy stocks have performed particularly well during inflationary periods. Big oil companies have high operating leverage, which helps deliver a healthy profit margin. During high inflation, investors tend to favor quality income assets. However, the market is still vulnerable to volatility, so investors should be careful when investing in growth stocks. Investors who panic, buy and sell miss market recovery opportunities. Stocks are expected to retest their June lows. Until then, there are still plenty of market-topping opportunities. For long-term investors, the best defense against inflation is to diversify across different assets. Bonds are still a solid investment, but the value of cash on the sidelines will eventually decline. Number 3. Plan active and passive income during inflation. If you are struggling with high inflation, you should consider adding an extra source of income to your financial portfolio. This can provide you with a solid financial buffer. Several assets classes perform well in inflationary environments. In addition, diversifying your holdings is a time-honored strategy. For instance, real estate is a popular choice. The asset has the ability to increase in value, as prices of finished products and commodities rise with inflation. Another option is to use a passive income stream. Passive income can be generated from rental property, or from a business you do not participate in. You may also want to consider freelance work. With commissions and other forms of compensation, you can earn more money in less time. One of the simplest ways to counter inflation is to shop around. Various digital tools are available to help you find the best discounts. Investing in gold or other precious metals can also be a good idea. Keeping your finger on the pulse of inflation is key. Understanding how it works and how it affects you can go a long way toward reducing the volatility of your savings. It is also a good idea to consult with a financial advisor. They can help you to choose the right investments and ensure they are well allocated. Number 4. Create a personal budget. During periods of high inflation, it's a good idea to review your personal budget. You may need to make adjustments to your short-term and long-term plans. In the case of a family with a limited income, this means finding extra money to pay for essentials. It may also mean adjusting your savings plans. The first step to evaluating your personal budget is to analyze your spending. You can do this by looking at your bank or credit card statements for the past 3 to 6 months. By identifying areas where you spend too much, you can find ways to save. Also, look at your credit card interest rates. These will increase with the general rise in inflation. Other areas that you should consider reducing could include your monthly subscription services like internet service, TV, cell phone plan. If you are planning to travel, reshape your dollar amounts accordingly. Some things to avoid during high inflation include major purchases, such as a car or house. This is because it can hurt the value of your savings account. Number 5. Shopping under inflation, act wisely. If you want to live well, shop wisely. Especially if you are living in an economy where inflation is at a record high. You have to know where the best bargains are. A wise shopper will train himself to compare shops and learn what's in season at the supermarket. He or she will also find alternatives to inflated prices. According to experts, inflation in the United States is at its highest in decades, and you can't afford to ignore the problem. The increase in prices can affect your home, auto, and monthly food bill. In order to combat inflation, you need to start cutting expenses, pay down debt, and create an emergency fund. Another thing you need to do is to update your budget. As discussed earlier, this will help you determine where you can save. It will also help you decide how much you can spend on other goods and services. Once you have the budget in place, you can begin paying off debt. Remember that if you have no or little debt, you can expect your prices to rise by as much as 50%. Number 6. Rainy Day Reserve. A rainy day fund helps state governments to survive an economic downturn. In a recession, demand for programs increases and revenues fall. However, the rules governing the fund make it difficult for states to build up enough money to protect themselves from the downturn. States have historically built up reserve funds to address budget shortfalls. State rainy day fund balances stood at $25 billion at the end of 2000. The amount represented about a tenth of cumulative deficits between 2001 and 2004. Over the past decade, however, states have dramatically decreased their rainy day fund balances. 9 states have a cap on the amount of money they can draw down from the fund. While some of these caps have been removed, others have not. This can lead to states not accumulating adequate reserves in good times. According to a recent study by Moody's, states should aim to accumulate 11% of their general revenue into their rainy day fund. That's about $85 billion, which is roughly 0.5% of the national GDP. States can also target the deposit of surplus revenues. Many states have a goal of a specific percentage of their budget, which would increase their chances of making the necessary deposits during an economic upturn. Number 7. Investment allocation during inflation. There are several things to consider when reviewing your investment allocation during inflation. The first step is to take a hard look at what is most exposed to inflation. If your portfolio is heavily invested in bonds or commodities, you may want to pare back your exposure to those investments. Another option is to invest in inflation-resistant investments. Inflation-resistant assets have a high chance of increasing in value when prices rise. These types of investments can be found in fixed income and equity markets. Depending on your financial situation, you might also want to consider a combination of asset classes. For example, you might combine fixed-rate loans with floating-rate loans, or you might invest in emerging markets debt. Depending on your circumstances, you might also want to explore other options, such as life insurance, for liquidity. Assets that are highly correlated with inflation include gold, precious metals, silver, and commodities. These investments are often volatile during an inflationary period, but they can be effective hedges. TIPS can also provide protection against inflation. TIPS coupons tend to rise with inflation. They also offer lower rates than non-inflation adjusted bonds. An investment allocation that has a significant allocation to TIPS can help protect your portfolio from a sudden rise in inflation. But, you should remember that they are not guaranteed to beat inflation. Dear viewers, we believe that seeing this video would have piqued your interest and sparked your curiosity. We'd appreciate it if you could leave us a remark in the comments section below. As always, we appreciate hearing from you.